All right, so here we go. We have the dead priest in the corner here. Looks like they have a treasure bag and a small chest in their hands. So our options are offer a funeral prayer, examine the priest, examine the running water, loot the treasure bag, or loot the small chest. I have a feeling that the running water is probably the same as before, so I think we know what that is, and I'm more curious to see about the different sorts of things we can find here. And as far as what would Lordwrath be interested in, I'm kind of leaning towards examining the priest, or I could see Lordwrath wanting to know what was in the small chest as well. But I think I am going to go with examine the priest. Intrigued, you examine the priest. The gash in his belly was certainly fatal, but the red and vivid blood doesn't match the dry look of his body. What bothers you most is the presence of a dark ooze, like oil, that is slowly seeping out of the wound. This same substance is always present when corrupted enemies, for want of a better word, are around. You gain 2 focus, and you may erase an aura if you have any on your campaign log. Well, we do not have any auras, but we are going to gain that 2 focus back we just used. So, Lordwrath again at max focus with 4. And then that was going to be the end of Lordwrath's turn. Alright, Lordwrath is still our strongest character, so the Shadow Knight is going to be targeting him. And it will be able to move into this area space here, crushing this chest. So we are unfortunately not going to be able to loot that. It has been destroyed in the path of this large Shadow Knight. He's going to gain shield 1 at the start of the turn as well. His melee and has strike 2, so we'll be able to target both Lordwrath and Shadow with this attack, so 4 damage and knockdown. Going to Lordwrath, he will go ahead and use a ranged cube for the plate armor to prevent 3, only taking 1 damage and going to 11. Will get knocked down, however. Then Shadow is going to use a Wisdom Cube for the leather armor, prevent 2, and then move 2. So Shadow's going to take 2 from that and go to 5, and then get move 2. And I think Shadow, honestly, just wants to get out of melee range right there and be able to take out the Shadow Cultist still at the start of their turn. I actually think knockdown would apply to me here, but then the move 2 from my leather armor would be negated from the knockdown, meaning I will still have my move 3 at the start of my turn. That is how that makes sense in my head. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Yeah, so I think Willow is going to focus on probably healing. Probably Kellam and Shadow right now are the 2 that need it, so I think we're going to use our 3 movement to get adjacent to both of them, hand out some heals and some fruits of life. Alright, so we're going to start off with a move 3. 1, 2, 3. And Kellam will gain 1 fruit of life with the exchange minor action. Then I'm going to use a melee cube for just the basic remove curse to heal 2 and cleanse on Kellam, bring him up to 5 health, and removing a curse cube. Then I will go ahead and use my wisdom cube to cleanse 1, heal 2, and focus on Jaheen. 2 focus, 11 health. And we will remove 1 curse from Jaheen as well. So we've got a lot of options here with Shadow. Probably going to be going for a couple of these double strikes to finish off the Shadow Cultist right next to us and get some more damage on the Shadow Knight. Honestly, we might be able to finish both of them off with Shadow. I mean, our execution actually just defeats the Shadow Knight. Even with the armor, it wouldn't matter. So yeah, execution's really good. I didn't even consider that it went through armor at first, but it definitely does. So yeah, we'll be able to get rid of the Shadow Knight and at least one of these Shadow Cultists on our turn. This is going to be a good turn for us. Okay, starting off, we're just going to use a melee cube for an execution on the Shadow Knight. Goodbye. Going to go ahead and use a melee cube for Poisoned Blade. Gives me +3 to hit. It's going to be a 3 or higher. And that is a 12. So we will defeat the Shadow Cultist and refill Willow to 4 fruits of life. We are then going to move 1 space here and do a mortal blow with a ranged cube and hopefully get a 16 or higher to crit. And unfortunately that was a 2, so that is going to be a miss. And I do not believe I want to open the door on this turn, so I'm not going to do anything else with Shadow, and now we have to draw 2 runes. Rune number 1. Okay, we have one of those. Lordwrath is our strongest right now, but since we can reach Lordwrath with fewer, because you'll see we have a darkness spawning right here, so that is really only 2 spaces away, so we're going to be able to get to them a lot faster that way, and our other token, this wouldn't really fit on that space anyways. So we're going to break it into 3 single tiles and go from there. And the next strongest after Lordwrath is Jaheen. So this will then get placed right there, and Lordwrath will take the 2 unpreventable damage from that shadow, taking Lordwrath to 10 health. And our next rune is, got this guy. And again, we can get to Jaheen faster than that. So we'll place that on the initiative track. And we'll be able to go 1, 2. After Jaheen, Willow is the next strongest. So that will then go right back up, closer to Willow. Okay, so I am just going to have Jaheen move to that door and open it. It is likely we'll just be shielding up, maybe getting some more heals on, focusing and cleansing. But yeah, I think I just want to get that door open, see what we're up against. Okay, so Jaheen will move. 1, 2, 3. And use the minor action open door. The ritual chamber. Stepping forward again, you find yourself in a ruined chamber where thick columns rise to the ceiling, flanking a statue of a woman standing on a pedestal. Around her, a few more of those tormented people hum their dirge in a language you don't know, immersed in a kind of ritual. Tattered clothes, lost boots, and tools lie scattered everywhere, leading you quickly to conclude. You have been fighting Blackriver's missing all along. All right, and this is what we're looking at with the new setup. Looks like we got some black monster rookies coming in here, so we're about to have a lot of those big monsters like that Shadow Knight. I think I only have 2 different black monsters right now, so it's either going to be more Shadow Knights or the other one. So here we go. Let's find out. All right, so we've got this room set up. We've got more Shadow Cultists, Shadow Knights, and a new enemy, some Executioners. So we'll check out the Executioner card real quick. We are immune to Intimidate and Slow, a melee attacker, 12 health, 4 attack, 4 movement, cleave 2, bleed 1, and slow on a hit. All right, and they're going to be placed underneath that symbol. So they're going directly after Willow. We also have a special event trigger, Unraveling. When the last enemy is defeated, the current turn is paused, and you must read Special Event in Audience with Your Majesty on page 14. With Jaheen, we will go ahead and use a ranged cube for heal 3 and shield 2. And we are actually going to do that on Shadow in range to bring Shadow to 8 health and 2 shield. And then we will use our melee cube just to get off another heal 3 in range. And we are the only people in melee range to us, so we will go to full health at 13. And with that, we'll be performing an Unwilling Recall with Jaheen. We definitely want to start with that heavy throw ranged attack onto the Shadow Cultist left in this area with us. Because the hit itself will be 3 damage, and then a bleed 2 will be just enough to where it will die at the start of its activation. So that's the perfect amount of damage we need for that. And then just moving up forward is not going to give us another chance to make a range attack ourselves. But I could potentially use this second range cube on Jaheen and allow him to get a shield 2 move and hit in. And yeah, that honestly doesn't sound too bad. We'll definitely use that Fruit of Life as well. Get some more health back, and yeah, let's do that. Okay, starting with Kellam, we're going to use the range cube for a heavy throw. We are adjacent to an ally, and we get +2 to hit, so that's +3 total. We're looking for a 4 or higher. And we got an 18, perfect. So we're going to hit them for 3 and put 2 bleed. And that will be enough to defeat it at the start of its turn, so we don't have to use any more attacks or anything against it. Then we'll go ahead and use our second range cube for the Honest Review on Jaheen. And so we will then use a melee cube for Join the Fray, which is going to give Jaheen 2 more shield to put him at a max of 4. Then he's also going to get a move 2 and hit for +0. So he will go 1, 2. So for the Shadow Knight, 7 or higher. And we got a 12. Okay, so that will be 3 damage to the Shadow Knight. And then we will use the Fruit of Life to go up to 7 health and do our Unwilling Recall. Then on our way out, we might as well go ahead and take 1 more Fruit of Life from Willow, giving us 1 and Willow 3. And then we will move 1, 2, 3. Then we will go to the Shadow Cultist activation. So, starting with the one up top right next to us, they will take bleed 2 and be defeated. Alright, so the brown will go first and just move forward 3. 1, 2, 3. And then the orange one, we're going for Jaheen right now because he is our strongest, but they're not going to quite be able to get in range. However, they move down here, they'll at least be able to make an attack on Kellam. So, Kellam is getting attacked for 4 with Burn 1 and Curse 1. So for this, I'll go ahead and use a melee cube for my leather armor, which will prevent 2 and then let me move 2. So I still take 2 damage from that, taking me back down to 5. So realizing all of these Shadow Knights are actually about to move up, I think I want to step back a little bit with Kellam here and actually go 1, 2. Everything is going to be closing in on me just a little bit. I maybe want to try to clear out some of these guys before I try to press on too much farther. Kellam will also take the Burn 1 and Curse 1. And this does put Kellam at 3 Curse cubes. So he's not looking too great. But after the Shadow Cultist is Lordwrath. Okay, Lordwrath is knocked down, but he does have a ton of focus. And we do have a focus ability that will allow us to move 2, which could clear the knockdown. We have an agility cube as well. Okay, so we have a couple different options to still be able to get our 3 move, which is strictly better than the 2 move. We also have plenty of wisdom cubes, and that hits anywhere on the map, so that sounds pretty strong as well. Yeah, and with Jaheen right there, right up front, probably about to take some hits from these Shadow Knights, I'm thinking about stunning that Executioner right in front of him, so it won't be able to get an attack off this turn. And so that would be one of my wisdom cubes. I'm definitely going to be interacting one more time with Lordwrath. I think I like the idea of just putting some damage down since we're not going to be able to move up as far as we'd like to. Alright, so first thing with Lordwrath we are going to do is use our Wisdom Cube for a stun enemy to deal 1 damage and stun the White Executioner. And so, before we do the interaction token, we'll also go ahead and use 2 focus for a Breath Theft. And that's going to do 4 damage and a knockdown. We've already stunned the Executioner in front of us. I think I like the idea of knocking down the Executioner all the way in the back to stall it even longer. So that one will go down to 8 health and a knockdown. Then, before we take another cube, let's go ahead and investigate one last time. Okay, well, we are going to get a chance to do the other thing we said we might want to do with Lordwrath, so let's go ahead and loot the small chest. Knowing that the priest will no longer need the small chest, you reach out to take it. If any hero has the Rest in Peace status on their campaign log, read the resolution below. Otherwise, if no hero has this status, proceed to interaction number 24 and resolve it immediately. Okay, none of us have that, so we're going to 24. You pull the dead man's chest. You try to pull the small chest out of the priest's hands, but to your surprise and amazement, he clutches it and screams in a cadaverous voice so loud it makes his eyes bulge. Suddenly, with a macabre explosion that throws blood, bones, and viscera into the air, a monstrosity erupts from the body, ready to attack you. You gain 2 focus and take 4 damage, then replace this interaction token with a gray monster, rotten flesh. Okay, that does unfortunately put us in a little bit of a pincer with 1 monster behind us and all of these in front of us. It's just 1 though, so not too bad. And we do still have an action cube left with Lordwrath, as well as some focus abilities we can use. Alright, so with that monster summon, we can't use another focus ability even though we're at full. Since that's a minor action, we can only do it once per turn, but we do have a melee cube for a melee attack that we can make. But I think I have a better idea, and that is to use overpressure. So with my wisdom cube, I can deal 4 damage and telekinesis 3, and I'll go ahead and do that to the rotten flesh. 4 damage takes it down to 8, and then I'm gonna walk it off of this cliff here. 1, 2, 3. So this is the first time this has happened so far, but whenever a figure drops from a level 2 to a level 0, they take unpreventable falling damage. And whenever you do that, it is 2 unpreventable falling damage. So that's gonna be 2 more to go down to 6. And just like that, half of its health taken out. And we kind of pushed it into the area where there already are monsters, so we don't have so much of a fighting people in front of us and behind us situation going on. And that was both of Lordwrath's action cubes. So now we go to the Shadow Knights. So starting with the Yellow Shadow Knight. So going for the strongest right now, that's going to be Jaheen and Lordwrath. There's no way for the Shadow Knight to get to both of them with 2, but it most definitely can hit both Jaheen and Shadow Space by squeezing through right here and attacking. So it's going to gain shield 1 as well at the start, then make some attacks with knockdown, starting with Jaheen. Fortunately, Jaheen can just take that because he has 4 shield, so that will just wipe the shield clean from Jaheen. And then Shadow is going to be receiving 4 damage. So I'll actually have Shadow just take that with 2 shield. Shadow only takes 2 and goes down to 6 health, but is also knocked down from taking that damage. And then Kellam is also going to be receiving a hit for being in that same square because this is a strike ability. So we'll actually just use Kellam's intercept ability to just move out of the way. And so since this square is the one that's targeted, we can move into this square and avoid being hit. So we'll just move Kellam 1, 2, and honestly, we'll stay right here. We don't want to get too far past the monsters. We kind of still want to keep all of our people on this side and have the monsters funneled this way. Then we'll go to the Blue Knight. Jaheen is still the strongest, and there's just enough room to go 1, 2, and get where the Yellow Knight was to make just a single attack against Jaheen, 4 damage and knockdown. So I'm okay with the knockdown, but I will go ahead and use 1 agility cube for my plate armor, which means I will only take 1 damage and be knocked down. So 12 HP and knockdown. And so then the green will go 1, 2, trying to get to Jaheen. But that's as far as they'll be able to go and unable to make an attack. Alright, so Willow's going to start by taking some damage up front real quick. 1 burn and 1 bleed will take us down to 6. It's only a range cube left. A little limited, but Bramble Roots is a good attack, so it could be helpful. Just to start getting some more damage. We won't be able to knock it down, but +2 to hit is still good. Then we'll get everything back, and I think we definitely still need to do some heals at some point, so we'll do that as well. So I think we'll start by moving 1 space and handing off a Fruit of Life to Shadow. Then we'll use our ranged cube for Bramble Roots on the Yellow Shadow Knight, +2 to hit, and we won't be able to knock it down because it's large, but we are also adjacent to allies, so this is going to be a 4 or higher to hit. And we got a 12. Okay, so that's going to be a hit for 3 damage. With 1 shield. Goes down to 10 health. Then we do our Unwilling Recall, and because of our Blessed Source, we still are not taking any Curse Cubes. And so we can keep dealing damage and do a heal. Let's go ahead and do our ranged Leech Seeds attack against the same enemy. Now that shield's gone, more damage will go through. It is a +1 damage. So we're going to do a heal 2 at range, and I think we'll go ahead and give that to Kellam right off the bat. So Kellam goes back up to 7. And then it's +2 to hit, +1 more because we're adjacent to allies. 4 or higher to hit for 4 damage, Yellow Shadow Knight. Oh, just barely, that was 5, but we got it. So 4 more damage takes the Yellow Shadow Knight to 6. So we already know the red Executioner in the back is knocked down. Definitely not in range to attack, so it is doing nothing with its turn except removing the knockdown. And then the white Executioner is exactly where it would want to be if it needed to move, but it does not. And it has stun though, so it is not going to be able to attack. So we will just clear the stun with that, and that is all the Executioners get to do for that turn. Unfortunately, we are engaged and we don't have a melee cube. But we do have an agility cube, which will grant us extra move, and then we could use the range cube after that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and use our free move to get rid of the knockdown, and use our Fruit of Life to go up to 8 health. Alright, so with Shadow, let's use the Stabbing Dash, but unfortunately, just for the movability, we're not going to get the extra adjacent enemy bleed to and slow because we want to be able to make a ranged attack. So we're actually only backing up 1 space here. And then we are using our range cube for a twin throw. And we're going to make both those attacks on the Shadow Knight in hopes that both of these hit and we take it out. So we are looking for 7s, 6s, or higher. Okay, well, that first one was a nat 20. So we get a critical, which means that first attack is going to deal the 6 damage that we need and defeat the Shadow Knight. It's going to heal Lordwrath for 1, and then we have 1 more attack left now. So the only thing viable left is the Rotten Flesh, so we'll go ahead and make an attack on that as well. And that's just a 10, but it's still a hit, and will be 3 damage. We'll do our Unwilling Recall, and onto the Rotten Flesh's turn. It's a melee attacker already standing against our strongest unit, so we'll just have the Rotten Flesh turn towards Jaheen after getting pushed down here by Lordwrath. And it has attack twice and intimidate 1, 3 for each attack. So I think first thing we'll do is start with using a Wisdom Cube to divert 3, so ignoring that first one. And then with the attack twice, we are going to take 3 damage and thus be intimidated once, taking us to 9 HP and 1 intimidate. Nothing else at the end except for drawing our rune. And this time we got this rune. Alright, we've been seeing this one a lot, but alright, let's go ahead and place that down. But I think we're probably going to be breaking it up anyways. So it's actually going to get it pretty close because there is a spawning point right here. So we will have darkness come in right there. Then on to Jaheen, and then chasing down our next strongest. After Jaheen, it looks like it'll be going for Shadow. So Jaheen will take 2 damage there. Then we'll flip the rune card and go back up to Jaheen's turn. So I think the goal will be to use a focus on the Executioner, hit the Shadow Knight, and then move to hit the Cultist. Alright, first things first, we'll take away the knockdown. Forget what I said about moving, we are knocked down. So first thing we're going to do is use our 2 focus for a shield bash. +2 to hit, +1 damage and knockdown. So 5 or higher for 4 damage and knockdown. Okay, 10. So 4 damage will take it down to 7 plus knockdown. And then we will use our repelling strike for shield 2, +2 to hit, and push 3, so 5 or higher again. Alright, we got a 9. First thing I'm going to do, I did have intimidate, so that first attack should have dealt 1 less damage, so I'm going to increase the Shadow Knight's health back up to 11. And then with that hit, I'm going to be able to deal 3 more damage to the White Executioner, going down to 4 health, and then push 3. 1, 2, 3. And so I got that knockdown condition on it, and then pushed it away, so now it gives me more of an open space to kind of walk through, instead of having to worry about if I'm going to end up too close to the Executioner. It gives me some more movement space here. And then that will be everything Jaheen can do. And since he ended his turn on darkness, he's going to take 2 more damage. Alright, now we have Kellam, who's going to take the 1 damage from the fire here to go to 6. We'll just go ahead and bust the Fruit of Life to go up to 8. And then we're definitely going to be using Kellam to take care of this Shadow Cultist to make sure it doesn't get too close. So first thing, we'll just do a ranged double throw with Kellam. Each of these gets +2 to hit, so I'm looking for 4s or higher on both. And so that is an 11 on the first one for 3 damage. And another 11. Okay, double 11s for 3 damage each. 6 total, taking it down to 3 health. And then we'll just go ahead and use our other ranged attack, Heavy Throw, for +2 to hit and bleed 2. So again, 4 or higher is gonna kill. There we go, 7. Lucky 7 for the kill. And the Shadow Cultist gets removed. And then I actually will have Kellam move 1. He's gonna lose 1 from being in the water, so 2, 3. Put him over here in the corner, not quite adjacent, but maybe sneak around here, because Kellam has that teddy bear, so these treasure chests back here, he'll be able to look at 2 items and choose 1. So now we can go to the Shadow Cultist. It has 3 movement. It's gonna be able to go 1, 2, 3. That's about it, and not get into range for any attacks. So now we will go to Lordwrath. Alright, so Lordwrath, our focus master for the game. I'm also just now realizing we did end our turn on a shadow last time, so we should have gone down to 9. Then I might just end up using Lord's March to get to where the attack could hit both the Rotten Flesh and the Shadow Knight to take care of the Rotten Flesh and deal more damage to the blue one. Okay, so for Lordwrath, we'll start with 3 move. 1, 2, 3. So stepping into the darkness is going to deal us 2 damage, taking us down to 7. We'll then use our Agility Cube for Lord's March, move 3, Intimidate 2. And really, we only want to move here. And then we can Intimidate the Shadow Knight for 2. So before we attack, I think we honestly just want to go ahead and use Breath Theft for 4 damage against the Shadow Knight. So that will take it down to 7. And then we will use our melee cube for the Shadow Arcing for Cleave 2, +2 to hit, adjacent to an ally, so 5 or higher is going to hit both of them. Okay, 11 again. All right, well, that'll do it. 4 damage to the Rotten Flesh will eliminate it. And part of the reason we wanted to do our focus ability first is because we were hoping the Rotten Flesh would die and gain us another focus, so that'll take us back up to 3. We also get to heal 1 off of that, going up to 8. Willow will also get a Fruit of Life. And then so we'll do 4 more damage to the Shadow Knight, taking it down to 3 health. And that will trigger Lordwrath's Unwilling Recall. And after Lordwrath, we have the Shadow Knight turn. So the Shadow Knight will be able to move here. And so, since it's a 3-way tie between Lordwrath, Kellam, and Shadow, to avoid getting 2 people hit at Lordwrath and Jaheen's location, I'll have Kellam and Shadow take the attack. So, starting off, 4 damage to Kellam. I think I know I already want to use a Agility Cube with Willow for a Veil of Light to choose 2 targets to prevent 2, and that'll be Kellam and Shadow. So, 2 damage already prevented on Kellam's end. And he will unfortunately have to take the rest. So that's going to be 2 damage to 6 and a knockdown for Kellam. Shadow Knights also gained the shield and then took the 1 from the burn as well. It's at 2 health with 1 shield. With Willow's 2 prevention and then the 2 intimidate that the Shadow Knight had, that first attack is going to be a miss on Kellam. Or Kellam is going to take 0 from the first attack. And then Shadow is also gained the benefit of prevent 2. Also has 1 shield. So we will go ahead and use our Agility Cube for our Tumble to prevent the last one. Well, we prevent 2, so we will preserve our shield and then move 2 more spaces. And I think Shadow wants to try to creep on around this way. 1, 2. Shadow had the 1 shield from ending the turn adjacent to Willow. Part of the support class ability. I know I forget that one probably more than anything else. And then that will be it for the blue Shadow Knight, and we'll go to the green Shadow Knight, who is now looking to target Lordwrath or Shadow. And the best option it has right now is going right here to be on top of the darkness and attacking Lordwrath's base with Jaheen. So they're getting +2 damage from being on top of that. So this is a 6 damage attack coming at Lordwrath and Jaheen. Let's start with Jaheen, who has 4 shield up. So it is a 2 damage attack that he is going to take. So going down to 3 health and knockdown. And then Lordwrath is going to use a Wisdom Cube to parry and repost to prevent 2 and retaliate 2. So still have 4 to prevent. We will go ahead and also use a Agility Cube for plate armor to prevent 3. So now we only take 1 damage, but we still get knocked down. Alright, so it's Willow's turn. Probably going to spend that ranged attack to go ahead and try to take out the Shadow Knight. And then, honestly, I think we might throw out some heals. Alright, so we'll go ahead and start with our range cube for the Bramble Roots. +2 to hit and knockdown, +1 because we are adjacent to an ally, so a 4 or higher will hit. And alright, we got exactly a 4, so that will be the 3 we need to defeat the Shadow Knight. Lordwrath will heal 1. Alright, and then we'll finish off Willow's turn by using a Wisdom Cube for healing spirits to heal up to 2 targets for 2. And we are going to choose Jaheen and Kellam. Up next are the Executioners. So we will start with our red Executioner in the back, and they are going to move 4. And then our white Executioner was knocked down, so not going to be able to move, therefore will not be able to get into range for an attack. Alright, so we're really getting down to the wire here. I think this is going to be a good time, probably use our Scroll of Incinerate to get a big hit onto the last remaining Shadow Knight. We also have plenty of great opportunities for attacks, so we're going to have a lot of damage to deal with Shadow on this turn. We even have a focus ability we're going to be able to do. And because we're in water, that means we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go ahead and use our 2 focus for Blinding Strike, +2 to hit and bleed 4. So no allies adjacent, but we have our innate +1. So this is going to be a 4 or higher to hit. And we got a 7. So that's going to hit for 3 damage and bleed 4. It's going to take 1 because we have 2 shield and then 4 bleed. And then for Shadow's last action, we're going to use a melee cube on the striker ability for our twin strike. So each of these are going to be 6 or higher to hit for 3 damage to the Shadow Knight. Okay, 15, the first one's a hit. And 18, okay, 2 hits. That means 6 damage to the Shadow Knight, taking it down to 8. And then because I have no doubt that this Shadow Knight is going to go down, I'm going to go ahead and use our Scroll of Incinerate. Discard, deal 2 damage and burn 4. Go ahead and do this on the red Executioner, taking it down to 6 health and then 4 burn. And that will be it for Shadow's turn. And that's the end of the turn order. So now we're going to draw 2 runes. Alright, we've got this one. And we've got that piece. Alright, so Lordwrath, Shadow, and Kellam are all tied at 8. So we're just going to start this first one doing this. So Kellam and Shadow are going to take 2 damage. Now we draw our next rune. Okay, this one again. This symbol. But again, we're going to be breaking down into 3 smaller pieces. Then we'll go Lordwrath. And oh, we're getting very close to being crushed. So that's a mechanic that's going to happen If darkness is added and all of your heroes are standing on darkness, Willow is currently the only one out of the darkness right now. Okay, so for Jaheen, we are still knocked down. We do have a ranged shield and heal we could give, and then get all of our cubes back. We are at least adjacent to the Shadow Knight, so we will be able to make an attack. So not too bad of a position, even though we are knocked down. Get rid of our knockdown token. So no more free move. But then we will go ahead and use our melee attack, Protective Light, to give ourselves shield 2, +2 to hit, and burn 1 onto the enemy. +2 to hit and adjacent to an ally, so we only need 4 or higher. And that's an 8, so that's going to be a hit and a burn 1. So 5 health plus the burn does mean when the Shadow Knight activates, it will die to the condition tokens. Okay, so with Kellam, we've got a good target for the Rupture Eardrums. Whenever that Executioner takes that 2 bleed, that means he's going to have enough condition tokens to die at the start of his turn. And then I think we'll be able to move forward and make a rolling strike attack, and as long as we roll 1 condition on the White Executioner, we will be able to take it out. Okay, first thing we're going to do is Rupture Eardrums, giving both the Shadow Cultist and the Red Executioner bleed 2. After that, we're going to move 3, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3. And we'll use our melee cube for a rolling strike, so this is going to be +3 to hit, so 4 or higher. And that's an 18, so we do hit for 3 damage, and we roll the trap die twice. Okay, we got a blank, so we're hoping we don't roll another blank. Okay, we actually rolled 2 blanks, so that is only going to be the 3 damage, bringing the Executioner down to 1. And then we will be doing an Unwilling Recall with Kellam, and this is going to bring us to 4 Cursed Cubes, which is super dangerous with the Shadow Cultist around. So then after Kellam is the Shadow Cultist. Shadow is currently our strongest hero, and the Cultist will be able to move into range, so they're going to move up 1 space, and then attack. Well, first they're going to take their 2 bleed and go down to 7 health. And then they will move forward and attack Shadow for 4 damage, burn 1, and curse 1. So what I think we want to do with that then is use a range cube on our Death Stiletto. That's going to allow us to parry and riposte. And since it's a ranged attack, we can use a range cube, and that will prevent 2 damage and retaliate with 2 damage. So that'll take the total attack down to 2. Then we have 1 shield, so we will take 1 damage, and then take a burn and a curse. Sorry, we have 3 shield with Shadow, so we will just lose 2 shield and take no damage. And then 2 damage back to the Shadow Cultist brings it to 5 health. Okay, so Lordwrath has knockdown, so we're going to be getting rid of some sort of move to get rid of that. We don't have access to our agility ability at the moment. So I think since that one White Executioner only needs to take 1 damage, we probably will go ahead and use our stun enemy on that. And then we'll be able to use a ranged or a melee cube on Jaheen to get some heals with just the basic move curse. So we'll remove our knockdown token. We're going to use our Wisdom Cube for stun enemy to defeat the White Executioner, which is going to put Lordwrath at max focus and heal 1 to go to 9. Willow will also get a Fruit of Life. And now we're going to use a melee cube to remove curse, heal 2, and cleanse 1 on Jaheen. And that's going to be it for Lordwrath. So when we go to the Shadow Knight, it is just going to take that 5 condition damage right at the start, which will defeat it. Healing Lordwrath by another 1 and going to 10 health. So really not a whole lot. We're probably just going to heal with Willow and make sure everyone stays alive. Starting out, Willow is going to move 3. 1, 2, 3. Then Willow is going to use the Wisdom Cube to cleanse 1, heal 2, and focus 1 with Soothing Rain. And we're definitely going to do that with Kellam, who's got a lot of curse cubes, going up to 8 health. And then we will use our melee cube for the basic remove curse, heal 2, and cleanse on Shadow, which will put Shadow at full health and remove a curse cube. And then an Unwilling Recall, where we will not take a curse cube because of the Blessed Source. Now we go to the Executioners. The last Executioner has 4 burn and 2 bleed, 6 health, so it is going to take all of that damage and be defeated. Healing Lordwrath again by 1, going to 11. Can't focus anymore. And then Willow will also go up to max Fruit of Life at 4. Now we are down to the last enemy, and it is Shadow's turn. And at this point, I think we're going to come out of this on top. So I'm kind of going to speed this up just at the end because I'm really just trying to get to those treasure chests and then take out this cultist. And now we're going to use our move 3, but really we only need to move back 1 space to get to this chest. And then we will open it and roll the trap die twice. We got a blank. And we got a slow. Okay, slow, not really going to matter. There's not going to be a turn after this one, but we have slow now. And then after Shadow, we're going to draw a rune tile. And we drew this guy, but there's definitely a shorter path than that. So we'll break down into 3. Shadow is our strongest. There's a spawn right there. We'll go 1, 2, 3, and Shadow will take 2 damage, going down to 8. And then it goes to Jaheen's turn, but all I'm going to do with Jaheen is just move him out of the darkness, and we're just going to end the turn there, because I just want Kellam to get to this last chest, open it, and then defeat this Shadow Cultist. So we'll go to Kellam's turn, and we're going to move 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we will roll the trap die twice. And we got slow with Kellam as well. And we rolled slow twice, but we can only get slow once. So Kellam and Shadow are both slow. But let's see what he drew. And because of our teddy bear, we get to look at 2 and choose which one we want. Okay, so we drew 2 scrolls. We have the Scroll of Displacement as well as Scroll of Icy Bolts. So discard to 5 damage, Telekinesis 3 and Stun, or up to 2 targets 3 damage and knockdown. We're familiar with this one. This one seems incredible, and it's rare compared to uncommon, so I think we're definitely going to stick with the Scroll of Displacement. And now, Kellam still has 2 more action cubes, so hopefully both of these combined will be able to take care of the Shadow Cultist. And we're just going to start with the double throw. If both of these hit, it will be enough to kill. We get +2 from the ability, +1 because we're adjacent to Shadow. 4 or higher hits on these. And wouldn't you know it, with the final blow, we got a critical hit smashing through the backside of the Shadow Cultist. And there really isn't a better way to finish off a chapter. So now that the last enemy's been defeated, we have our event trigger unraveling. So we're going to go to the special event, in audience with your majesty. As the last of your enemies falls and you finally begin to understand what is going on, you notice a passage underneath the base of the statue that appears to descend into a hidden chamber. The humming dirge continues to emerge from down there, along with a strange greenish light, and that is something new to you. You don't remember seeing such a light before, or at least not one this strong. Certainly, whatever is making people lose their minds is coming from this place, and you need to go down and confront the evildoer behind these spells to put an end to it. You descend the stairs, foot by foot, and when you step back onto solid ground, your eyes can hardly believe what you see. A sort of catacomb adorned with alchemical paraphernalia, with bones scattered everywhere, along with more of that strange tar-like substance. However, nothing draws your attention more strongly than the being that you see up ahead, leading the chant which now reverberates from the walls like the conductor of some blasphemous orchestra. Is this the culprit you're looking for? The creature responsible for your dearest one's downfall? Could it be that in the end, as you feel in your heart and wish with all your forces that you are just another one of his victims? You were not welcome here, mortal. The figure intones, its tattered robes floating into the air as he recognizes your intrusion. His voice is husky, cadaverous, and its echoes are distorted through the air unlike any sound you've ever heard. But now that you've come, you can join us. He completes the threat with a terrible laugh, and somehow you know that if it isn't the last thing you hear in this life, This certainly will not be the last time you hear it. Twisted by the will of the crowned skeleton before you, the bones scattered across the vast dark water mirror covering the floor reassemble and rearm themselves. A strange fog hovers around you, as if wanting to swallow you up and make you disappear into the darkness, just as it seems to have done to the passage you emerged from. Okay, well, I was not expecting this, but it looks like we still have a whole new setup right here. Okay, so I'm just gonna go do this setup and then we will come back.